Hello, everyone. Welcome to Decoding Downtowns, brought to you by Vistity. In this podcast, we dive deep with leaders from business improvement districts across the nation, revealing the strategies that are shaping the future of urban development and economic growth. Thanks for joining us. Hey, it's Jamie Schwartzman, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Andy Taft. He's the president of Downtown Fort Worth Incorporated in Fort Worth, Texas. Andy, how are you today? Welcome to the podcast.
Doing great, Jamie. Thanks so much for having me.
Excellent. Welcome. Hey, tell us a little bit about downtown Fort Worth and kind of what makes it unique.
Jamie, it's on the Trinity River, which is coming back. A lot of recreational uses on the river. You can see it there on your screensaver. But we've got all the big land uses in downtown, and they're all firing on all cylinders. So we serve the west part of Texas, kind of west of Dallas. We're served by the airport, and we've just got all the pieces now that are coming together.
So, place management organizations are all formed and organized differently. Tell us a little bit about Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. How are you organized? How are you funded?
Yeah, Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. is 40 years old now. We manage public improvement districts. One of them is very modest. The other one has a budget of about $3 million. We also manage the tax increment financing district for downtown, and that has a lifetime cap of $100 million, but it's a $5 million a year economic development pool. And we're also a membership organization, and we also manage 2 special events, and we manage some parks and some other things for the city that generate revenue for the organization.
A lot of functions that you guys are serving in your community. Tell us a little bit about you and what's your role in the organization.
Well, I'm the president of Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. My predecessor was here for 20 years. I just celebrated my 20th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
So this 40-year-old organization has had 2 presidents. Before that, I was in Shreveport, Louisiana, and before that, I was in Tampa, Florida. As the president of the organization, I oversee a staff of a dozen and 1,000 volunteers, and of course, the PA to the TIF and everything else. I'm the spokesperson for the organization and chief cook and bottle washer.
So how about a little bit more about you? How did you get into this? Why did you go in this direction with your life?
Yeah, that's a really great question. First thing you need to know is I'm one of 11 children. And I'm the middle of 11 children. Being in the middle of 11 children, I think I have learned, or it was beaten into me, that somebody needed to be Switzerland, this builder and the neutral party. And I think to a certain extent helped prepare me for a role in an organization where I had to see all sides of perspectives and try to build consensus among a large group of people. In college, I started out as a vocal major and switched to business, and I kind of backed into the downtown business when I was hired as an intern at the Tampa Downtown Partnership, and asked my boss how I got a job like his. He came back the next day with a typewritten 10-year career plan that laid a path out for me, and he and a number of others have been my mentors over the years and guided me into the path that led me to Fort Worth.
So a great diplomat and a good student.
Right.
Hey, tell us a little bit about downtown Fort Worth and how you guys play a role in supporting economic development in your area.
Sure. So the first thing is our core role is that downtown needs to be show ready 24 hours a day. So we're clean, we're safe, we're friendly, we're hospitable, we've got good parking, all the things that downtowns sometimes struggle with versus the suburbs. We want to make sure that those barriers don't exist in downtown. So we try to make, from a physical standpoint, we try to make downtown as competitive with suburban office and decision making as we can, right? The other is on the marketing side, and can market the tax increment financing district, which is an incentive or a series of incentive opportunities for new developers. So we steer mostly to the new development, new construction, or historic rehab side of economic development. The Chamber of Commerce and the Fort Worth Economic Development Partnership and the city are the primary drivers of economic development. We supplement their efforts by being brought in when there's a prospect that's interested in downtown. We provide information. We have a full-time researcher, and we do some select advertising nationwide and locally to get the message out about downtown Fort Worth.
And so really familiarizing people with what's going on in the area at the street level.
Right. We're the subject matter experts. And so when the chamber has someone, or the city, that is specifically interested in downtown, either buying a piece of land, buying a building, or moving into an office building, they call us and we provide a lot of data, or we'll show up and be a part of the presentation team.
Andy, you mentioned an incentive program. Can you go into a little bit more details of how that works?
Sure. We manage the tax increment financing district. Again, it's got a $100 million lifetime cap and $5 million annual lifetime cap. And for the most part, the TIF is used to build public infrastructure. We have design standards in downtown. So your sidewalk has to be so wide, there's street trees, there's special lights, you have to bury the utilities, extraordinary power requirements in downtown that are required. And so we know that it costs more to develop in downtown than it might in a greenfield area somewhere. And so the tax increment financing district help with those incentives. But it can also be used for to offset parking costs, and could be used, for instance, we've used it a couple of times for historic facade leases for historic preservation purposes. But for the most part, it's those public infrastructure pieces that help put a deal over the top.
I see. And are you pushing that $5 million into the local economy every year?
Yes, we started maxing out years and years ago, and we've obligated 97 of the $100 million. And so the city now is working on whether it's going to renew the TIF, expand the TIF cap, or start over with a new geometry or geography for the TIF. We'll probably know before the end of this year how the rest of that life continues.
How has it made a difference?
Well, we've leveraged that 100 million to over $1 billion worth of development in just in the tight core of downtown.
Wow.
The fourth high rise behind your head, starting from the left, that one was the tallest one there, was hit by a tornado, and every bit of glass was blown out, and so were many of the desks. And that stood as an empty building for a number of years. And using the tax increment financing district, we paid for the asbestos abatement of that building. And through the TIF and a parking lease, we leased the existing garage for a total of $9 million and provided free weekend and evening parking to the general public right in downtown. And between the $3 million and the $9 million for the parking, we have $12 million in that. And now that is a fully sold out condominium residential building that set the tone for future condo development in downtown.
Let's talk about residential a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned, earlier, how is, what's happening in downtown? Are people moving downtown? Are you seeing adaptive reuse? Is there new multifamily going on? What's the story of residential?
Yeah, we've got all of that. We've got about 10,000 people living in downtown now. We've got we'll call it about 4,000, it's a little over 4,000 residential units. 3,000 of those are apartments and the rest are condos. So very heavy on the multifamily apartment rental side. I haven't seen it quite as much condo development in recent years. We'd like to see more of that.
Everywhere,
right? But the multifamily guys are chasing land, and we've seen quite a few of these 300 unit Texas donuts with the structured parking and the wraparound units. Quite a few of those built in the last few years. We've got about, right now in the tight core of downtown, we've got about 600 units in production. And we just opened a 23-story high-rise apartment building, 300 units on 3/4 of an acre. And so that's at a new price point. And I think if those developers, and that's Southern Land out of Nashville, if they get their price point and they lease up quickly, we'll probably see another one of those come up. But we'll probably also get the attention of those condo developers that are working in other cities. I think they're going to realize Fort Worth is now on the map and can support that kind of product.
Are residential units absorbing quickly? Do you have a high vacancy rate? Tell me about that.
Yeah. No, we don't. We absorb everything that we deliver or historically have within 8 months. And so, Fort Worth being one of the fastest growing cities in the country and the 12th largest city in the country, we're capturing our share of growth in the tight core of downtown. So we've been very fortunate. We've absorbed everything we've delivered in very short order.
That's great.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about some of the challenges right now that you're facing in promoting economic development and telling your story.
First of all, the Fort Worth story is great. If you hear the Fort Worth story, it's great. And it starts with DFW, right? The airport, the number 2 airport in the country, and you can get anywhere from here. And of course, everybody knows Dallas, and you've got all the amenities of Dallas as a very large city adjacent to us. But the downside to that is everybody's heard of Dallas, and they've got an opinion of Dallas. And of course, Dallas's corporate base is significantly larger, and employers follow jobs and employees. And so I would say that our biggest challenge is to differentiate ourselves from Dallas for those companies that are looking at North Texas and being somewhere near Dallas Fort Worth Airport. For the FW in DFW doesn't immediately come to mind. That's a big D, right? And so I would say that our biggest challenge is to get corporate relocation professionals to look at the west side of the airport.
So really stepping out of the shadow of Dallas.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. And it casts a very large shadow, and understandably so. I think that Fort Worth now, with all of the things that are happening here, including Taylor Sheridan's multiple productions that are going on in Fort Worth and featuring Fort Worth, kind of like Nashville, I think we're starting to get a little bit of light shown on this part of Texas. And when people realize that we've got the lifestyle, the place to raise a family, and the amenities of the Metroplex without having some of the challenges that you have in bigger cities, we're going to start getting the looks that lead to corporate relocation decisions on this side of DFW.
So what's working on the flip side? Maybe you can give us some actionable advice of, what would you suggest for other place management professionals who are listening today? What's working for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Fort Worth has a built-in culture of planning and sticking with the plan and working the plan, right? Working the plan. There are always I say this because downtown is in its fifth 10-year plan, and part of the process and the heritage of the culture of Fort Worth is to take the plan and immediately turn the planning committees into implementation committees. And we do this every 10 years and identify the things that need to happen over the course of the 10 years and then work that plan like crazy to get as much of that plan done in the 10-year period as we can. So residential, been working on residential for 40 years, and now we're really hitting our stride. Education has been a big piece of the economic development puzzle for Fort Worth, and between UT, University of Texas at Arlington, our local Fort Worth ISD, Tarrant County College, and now Texas A&M moving into downtown, we've got a robust education offering to make in downtown. The restaurant, retail, entertainment scene, all of that is working well, and which makes me also want to say that the security network in downtown is tied together super tight. The public and private security folks get together on a regular basis. We're a part of that, a funding arm of that, and we are at the table. So whether you're a hotelier or a merchant or an office user or an entertainment provider, everybody's at the table, everybody's networked in, we know what's going on. And I think you can put all of that, the planning and the security and the promotion, everything we do, collaboration and congeniality among all the user groups in downtown within the context of a common vision is one of the reasons that it works so well.
So make a plan and stick with it.
And have everybody own it and work it together.
Great. Hey, let's talk a little bit about data and what you guys are tracking in economic development data. And not just what are you tracking, but what do people really care about?
Well, it's interesting, with the availability of Placer.ai and the others that are marketing telephone, cell phone usage data, what people care about and what they want to know about is a little different than it was just a few years ago. We want to track crime stats, and we do that. We report out to a very small group of people who want to monitor that. Obviously, occupancies are data points that people want to know about. Developers want to know about visitation and where people are coming and going from downtown. And residential developers and operators, managers of residential, want to know how much income people are making and where did they live before they live in downtown now. How big is the catchment area of downtown? In the past, we talked to some developers who talked about the size of the office market in downtown, and the way you hear them talk, you think, well, they're only trying to get the people who live in downtown. If you did a data capture of who lives downtown and what their previous address was, it's everything west of the airport, or west of the airport and going quite a bit further west of downtown than you would have thought. So it's a huge, huge catchment area with a very large population base. So it seems like more groups of people want even more data than we had been providing before. And a lot of that's coming from the cell phone data.
So with all the data that's sort of moving around and different people who want, different, access to the data, how do you tell the story? And are you using dashboards? Are you using data visualization? What's happening in that area?
Our website is dfwi.org. And if you go to the research tab of dfwi.org, you'll see just that. You'll see dashboards, and they're real-time dashboards. So we've got a series of subscriptions that we just pass the data right through automatically to these dashboards. So it's relatively low work on the part of our researcher to do it. We've got a very robust set of social media platforms that we pump that data out on, and we send texts and emails directly to local media, and we still print paper, and we do a very nice State of Downtown publication.
How often do you publish that?
Once a year. And it is a digest of all of the primary research that we do over the course of the year, as well as accumulate from other data sources, so that we can effectively democratize information and demystify downtown. And so if you are interested in where downtown is, where it's going, and why it's been where it's been, with just a little bit of prognostication about the future, we provide that information and we post it for free on our website as well. We have, again, demystified downtown, and it makes decision making on the part of developers much easier.
Well, let's look ahead. You mentioned a couple of cool projects. Maybe we can talk about them a little bit. Like, first, let's talk about Panther Island and what's going on out there. Tell us about that project.
Sure. Panther Island is about a 500-acre former industrial area just across the Trinity River, in your picture there, really just across the river from your picture. And it was populated for the most part by oil and gas companies and service firms and pipe companies and all that kind of stuff.
Just big yards.
Yeah, big yards and chemical companies and things like that, and some of which did not leave the land in good condition. And the levees that protect that side of the river from flooding are inadequate, according to the Corps of Engineers. And so the original proposal, going back, 30 plus years or so, was just to raise the levees and make the river even more detached from Fort Worth. And a group of very forward-thinking people rejected that idea and said, let's figure out a way to get people to the river and actually use the river as a resource for the citizens of Fort Worth and our guests. And so the answer is to build a bypass canal, kind of, by orders of magnitude larger than what San Antonio did to solve their flooding problem. But by virtue of building that bypass canal, you could take the levees down and build to the water's edge. So this 500 acres or so is largely now available. For the most part, it's owned by the water district, the city or the county or the Tarrant County College, and undergoing about $1 billion worth of public infrastructure right now. Bridges are being built, the bypass canal is being designed by the Corps, and we will see within the next few years that bypass canal being built. And we expect that over the course of the next, I don't know how long it will be, how long the market will take, but we'll probably see another 10 or 20,000 people living there, millions of square feet of new office, parks, and all kinds of the things that you would want to have in a walkable waterfront mixed use development immediately adjacent to downtown Fort Worth.
Got it. So this is a long-term vision, something that's really in the formative stages right now to put the infrastructure in place to even, make it possible.
Yeah, you know what? As painful as the formative stages really were, I would say that it's in the construction phase now.
Oh, I see.
I want to put the formative stage
out of development, and it's into actual construction.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time, but I think it will be transformative. I think it will help redefine what Fort Worth, Texas means to the world, because it's going to be done right.
Exciting. Let's talk about Butler Place and what's going on over there.
Yeah, Butler is a very typical historic public housing development, about 42 acres in an island that's defined by some pretty big interstates and highways that kind of trap it in a triangle immediately adjacent to downtown. It's also got some railroad tracks on one side that even further separate it from downtown.
Active railroad?
It vary, yes, both BNSF and UP. And in fact, where those two railroads intersect north, south, east, west is one of the busiest railroad crossings in the country. And a lot of money was just spent to grade separate those from auto traffic and local streets. So it's not as burdensome as it used to be, but still highly active tracks. But that 42 acres at the intersection of I-30 and I-35, next to this downtown, next to Panther Island, and a commuter rail right to DFW Airport represents a real redevelopment opportunity. And so we've been working with our local housing authority, which owns that land, as they are going through the HUD disposition process to think through the redevelopment of that 40 acres at that intersection and how it can best serve Fort Worth and the mission of the housing authority. So it's a really exciting opportunity.
Terrific. And last, let's talk about Texas A&M. What's going on with them and what are they doing in downtown Fort Worth?
Yeah, Texas A&M purchased the Texas Wesleyan University Law School 5 or 6 years ago. It didn't take too long for the dean of the law school to recognize the opportunities that both the law school and Texas A&M had, given their presence in downtown Fort Worth and in the Metroplex. College Station is south of Fort Worth, kind of toward the Houston area more, much more suburban, typical suburban campus. And they Texas A&M didn't have a real urban presence certainly in Fort Worth, but with the law school came 4 blocks of city land near that commuter station to the airport, near the convention center and the water gardens and the intersection of I-30 and I-35. Just a sweet geography. And so the dean went down to College Station and started talking up the idea of an expanded presence of Texas A&M in downtown. And we helped by funding a couple of studies that a local civic group that was started during COVID also took down to Texas A&M to show them how the disciplines of A&M and the industry, the base industry in Fort Worth could coexist and grow with each other. And it took one meeting for the chancellor of Texas A&M to see that there was real potential. And so the snowball began rolling down the hill very, very quickly. And now quite a few of the disciplines of Texas A&M, which by the way is the largest institution of higher learning in the state and one of the top in the country, is now bringing engineering and material sciences and plant sciences, food sciences, visualization and cinematography, and all of the big disciplines of Texas A&M are jockeying for position to be on this campus. And so while the first building is coming out of the ground, I just passed it, I think they're on level 4 now, a building is being designed. Some new land has been donated to Texas A&M for a future building. And so like all initiatives like this, and I think I would point to ASU in Phoenix as a great example of where a university moves into a robust, dynamic downtown. They're seeing new opportunities in disciplines that maybe they didn't think about at first. And we're going to have a tier 1 research university in downtown Fort Worth in a couple of years.
And it sounds like, really your organization was heavily involved and in fact critical, perhaps in sort of helping to form that vision.
Well, we did. Early in the process, we were asked to commission a study, and it didn't take any convincing for us to do that. So during COVID, we raised some money and we asked you 3 to do this study that would illustrate to the leadership of Texas A&M how local industry, and I'm talking about Bell Helicopter and Lockheed Martin and Alcon Labs and some of the others here in Fort Worth, how their employee and research needs marry the disciplines of Texas A&M and how they could be brought together. And so during COVID, our mayor put together a task force called Fort Worth Now to identify how Fort Worth could come out of the pandemic better. And while they were looking for something for how to do that, the dean of the law school injected the study that we commissioned into their thought process. And they embraced that, I think, as their number 1 priority. And that's the group of champions that went down to College Station to tell that story. And so it worked out very, very well.
Fascinating. Let's play make-believe and pretend for a moment. And the situation is that I've handed you a magic wand and you now know how to use it, and you're going to cast a spell to promote the vitality of downtown Fort Worth. What would you use it for?
Oh, that's a great question. To promote the vitality. Well, first, I would make the FW in DFW as big as the D. Right? I would.
Awareness.
Yeah, awareness. I would have Taylor Sheridan create a show called Fort Worth and put some sexy stars in it and have some drama and make whoever those people are as big as J.R. Ewing was, right?
So the brand.
Right. So it would be brand awareness. I think really that is the big thing that I would do. The physical pieces of the puzzle are already here. So now it's having people come and see it and understand it. I think we're going to go a long way toward that with our expansion of the convention center that's underway now. And I think Panther Island will do that in the coming years. But if you gave me a magic wand right now, that's what I'd do.
We didn't talk about the convention center. What's going on there?
Well, right across from Texas A&M and right across the street from that train station to the airport and right across the street from that new high-rise apartment building and Sheraton Hotel that got a $50 million facelift is our convention center, right? And so the convention center has a big arena attached. The Fort Worth Ed Bass just built a new convention center, or not a convention center, but an arena out in our equestrian facility. And I'm going to just brag a little bit here. It is the #1 arena in the world in its size in 2023.
And this is all equestrian?
No, it's rock concerts and all the things that happen in an arena.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, if you check it out, Fort Worth, the arena, the Will Rogers Center, the Dickies Arena, it's the #1 arena of its size in the world. So you don't need 2 big arenas in your city. And so the arena downtown is going to be demolished. The convention center is going to be expanded. When all is said and done, it'll probably be an $800 million expansion. And there'll probably be a new, 600 to 1,000 room hotel built next to it. All of that tied into the rail network to the airport. So it's a great convention package. And the front door of that convention center is going to be on Main Street, which will go all the way through Sundance Square and the plaza, all the way to the courthouse. It's just a beautiful setting with restaurants, retail, entertainment, all that kind of jazz. So, one of the ways that cities promote their city is getting new people to come in these big business conventions. And we're going to basically double the size or the number of conventions that can visit Fort Worth over the course of a year.
What's the schedule for this project?
Open in 2030. So it's under construction now, phase 1 of 3 phases. And the arena will be down and the new building will open, we think, 2030. It's fully funded.
A lot going on in downtown Fort Worth. You must be man.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Exciting. Well, I'm sure that our listeners are going to want to keep an eye on what's going on in downtown Fort Worth. How can they follow you?
Well, all you have to do is look up downtown Fort Worth or go to dfwi.org. We're on all the social media platforms. We have a 20-something female that's the voice of downtown Fort Worth. She's really good at videos and creating little reels and all the things that get people excited. And we are up to date on all the things going on. So depending on what the social media platform is, we will appeal to the day tripper, we'll appeal to the business person or the resident who just wants to drop in for a concert or whatever the thing is for a short visit. And so we're out there on all the platforms. One of the things that I forgot to mention is that we use the tax increment financing district to provide free weekend and evening parking in downtown in about 3,500 spaces, garages all around the core of downtown. We lease those, and the operators of those office building garages lift the gates. So it's free weekend and evening parking in downtown.
Wow. Well, Andy, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today. This has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot about what's going on in downtown Fort Worth, and I'll keep my eyes on it.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Decoding Downtowns. We'd also like to thank Vistity for supporting our podcast. They are a leader in digital tools for economic development for districts. Until then, keep innovating and exploring in your district. Thank you for joining us today for Decoding Downtowns. If you've enjoyed our podcast, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's brought to you by Vistity, the leading geospatial visualization platform for data-driven decisions. Stay connected, stay informed, and let's continue to shape the future of our cities together. Until next time, I'm Jamie Schwartzman.